Hey guys, today we're going to look at what is state in React. A lot of people get tripped up with what is state when they're building their React apps. So let's go ahead and explain it a little bit here. State is what the current state of our app is in. So if you think about if we're building a to-do app, we might have no to-dos when the app starts. So we would have an empty state essentially. Now, as the user starts to add a to-do, we would have to do what's called update the state. So we might add a new object to an empty array, which would be our state here. So how do we actually set up state in a React app? As you can see, I have a very simple app here set up using the Create React App Generator. And we just have loaded up the development server and we have the simple UI there, okay? So let's go ahead and set up state. So first of all, when you're not using something like Redux, which is a library for managing state for apps, we can set up our state in what's called a stateful component. A stateful component is used for managing state for a React app, and it uses the class syntax when you're creating a component. Where we set up state is we can use one of the lifecycle methods in React called the constructor. And what we will do here is we'll just open this up and we'll call super. You need to call super when you set up the constructor. And what we can do here is we can create our initial state. So how we do that is we say this.state, and that's going to be equal to a object. And now we can put different properties in here. So if this was a to-dos app, we might have a property such as to-dos, and when the app loads, that's an empty array. So let's go ahead and save this. And that's as simple as it is to set up state in a React app. We create a constructor function in a stateful component, which in your app might be the highest component, i.e. the parent. And then all your other components might be stateless components, i.e. they're created with an arrow function or just a function keyword as opposed to the class syntax here. So let's come back to our website. And it's the wrong one. So we can bring this up here. We can bring up our dev tools and we can look in the React section here. This should load up in a sec. Yeah, so we have React. And we can see here now in the dev tools of React, we have our state and we have a property to-dos, and that's an empty array. So that's all well and good. So now how would you go about updating this state? So let's come in here and change this a small bit. What we can add is we'll add a form. We'll get rid of the action here. Inside this form we'll have an input. And we'll give this a name. Type with my left hand here, so apologies for the slow typing. And we'll give this a name user input. And we'll have a button. And this will say click. So now we'll create a function here in our component and we'll say add item. And this is going to take the text to add. And we'll open that up. So what we'll do here is when we click the button, or i.e. we submit the form, we want to go ahead and actually add a new to-do to our state. So we want to update our state. So good practice here is to bind our functions here. So we make sure that when we call this function, it actually calls the correct function in this component. When React gets compiled using Webpack, in the browser it'll be into one big JavaScript file. So we want to make sure that when we call this add item, that it calls it in this context, i.e. in this component, that it doesn't call another add item function in another component. So what we can do here is add an onSubmit event to this form, and we'll let that equal to a arrow function, and I'll take the event object like normal JavaScript. What we will do is we'll just prevent the page from refreshing. So we'll prevent default. Let's create a variable called input, and that's going to be equal to the e.target dot whatever the name of the input we gave, which is user input, and then the value. And now what we can do is call this dot add item and pass that value. that we just assigned to our variable. So when we come up here, we get the text. So let's go ahead and create a very simple object. Let to do equals a object, and we'll say the ID will just be a random number. So we'll do math.random using the built-in JavaScript, and the text will be equal to the parameter that we pass in. So now what we can do is we can say this.state dot to-dos dot push our object that we just created, the to-do, and here is the magic part. We now want to update the state, and when we update the state, our components will be re-rendered. So to update the state, we use this.set state, and now we'll call a function, and now we have an object, and we will update something in the state. So for example, we can say to-dos, we're accessing our to-dos property here. We can let that equal to this.state.todos, because we just pushed that object into the array, but now we're actually going to re-render our state here by updating it. So that's why we'll let it equal to this.state.todos. So when we come back, we save this, come back to our website here. See, we have a form now, and our state is still initially an empty array, which has a property to-dos. So when we go ahead and add apples and click, you can now see that our state has been updated. So we now have an object with our random ID and our text. If we were to add another one, we now have two objects, so we're updating our state. So this is useful because as you start to build out your app, like you have different components, you can pass this state to other components using what we covered in the last video, using a prop. So that is state. It's used to manage the state for your app, to track what properties are in certain areas, and you can update them as you go. So for example, when the app loads, we might have our state, and we might have a name property, which is Ray. And let's just go ahead and show that under the form in a H1. And this might be different components, which you would pass the data down via prop. So we can say this.state.name, we'll save that up, come back to our website, and we'll now see we have Ray. So what we can do is when we add a to-do, let's go ahead and now update some more areas of our state. So we can say name, not a very exciting app, but this is just to demonstrate it. So name will be Charlie when they go ahead and add a to-do. And you'll see the power of React now when the state updates, that our component gets re-rendered, i.e. the UI is updated. So when we add apples to our to-dos, the state will be updated, and we can now see Charlie. So I hope this helped on state, guys. And in the next video, we will look at how we put this all together by using state and props and passing data from one component to another, i.e. passing state data. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.